Hi everyone. Good afternoon. Well, good evening where you are, depending on where you are. And welcome to today's event hosted by the Digital Sociology Lab. My name is Kaylin K. Coghill, soon to be Dr. K. Coghill on April 19th. And I am a doctoral candidate in the Media, Art, and Text program here at Virginia Commonwealth University. I also teach in the Gender, Sexuality, and Women's Studies department and will be teaching in the English department in the fall. I'm really excited about this event today because the first one that we did, I was able to show up as a grad student and interview Dr. Kashana Gray. So I want to thank you all for attending our second event in the Black Cyberfeminism speaker series with a special guest who I'm super excited to hear chat today, Dr. Dawn Johnson, whose dissertation defense I sat in, by the way. Very inspirational a couple years ago. Today, Dr. Johnson will delve into her research on Black feminism within digital realms and its intersections with social justice, alongside sharing her pedagogical approaches in the classroom. Dr. Dawn Johnson, an assistant professor at Virginia Commonwealth University, specializes in gender, sexuality, and women's studies with a focus on feminist pedagogy and Black feminism. She holds a PhD in the Media, Art, and Text program, shout out MATX, from VCU, and is deeply committed to social justice advocacy. Dr. Johnson's research explores the intersection of digital media, feminism, and social justice, with a particular interest in Black feminist voices in the blog sphere. She has taught at VCU since 2017, creating innovative courses like GSWS 201. Outside academia, Dawn is an author, self-publishing poetry, and is passionate about digital activism. Today's discussion will be led by Digital Sociology Lab fellow Amaya McNeal, pronouns are she, they. Amaya recently graduated from VCU with a double major in sociology and gender, sexuality, and women's studies. We love to see it. Amaya is currently a first-year graduate student at the master's level with a concentration in digital sociology. How exciting. She also works as a teaching assistant in the sociology department. Their research draws on Black feminist scholarship and focuses on examining inequality in digital space as it relates to race, gender, and sexuality. Without further ado, please welcome Dr. Dawn Johnson and Amaya McNeal, and we will have a Q&A at the end, so please put your Q&A in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen, and I will let you all take it away.
Hi everyone. Thank you for all being here. Thank you again, Kaylin, for the introductions. Also thank you, Dr. Johnson, for being here and speaking with us today. So we're just gonna dive right in. So how are you introduced to Black cyberfeminism and how does it influence your work, Dr. Johnson?
Thanks, Amaya, and thanks, Kaylin, for that great introduction. I would say early in my academic studies in the MATX program, I started to look at the ways in which Black women were engaging online. I initially began looking at lifestyle type blogs like Awesomely Lovey and Curly Nikki, and I was studying at the time race and the internet, and was really looking at all of the things through the concept of intersectionality. And for me, Black cyberfeminism at this point wasn't a term that was readily available or used, but I wanted to really dig in to the concept of Black feminism, Black feminist thought, and I wanted to really explore more about how Black women and their bodies exist in a hyper-politicized state. And so I was interested in looking at how Black women were navigating systemic oppression in the midst of, and in the midst of these systems, how they often were not provided voice. And so through this desire to really kind of dig in deeper to this topic, I fell in love with the ways in which Black women and Black feminists were engaging online to create and establish their identities and to engage in acts of resistance. So for me, Black cyberfeminism is a kind of, I think, is the I have embraced it from the very beginning, but it came with me really just wanting to dig into a subject that I didn't have as much expertise around at the time. And really, I've always been pretty excited about it in considering the promise of libertary freedom that exists for doing the work of Black feminism online.
Yeah, so you talk about, doing this work of Black feminism online. So can you, speak more about how you think the internet has furthered Black feminism? And then also think about, some of your favorite Black feminists who do the internet well.
Oh, that's a great question. I would say that Black feminism has been made truly accessible and available, as accessible as maybe we're having conversation about it over dinner. And this would not be possible without the internet. And of course, the internet is not without its ills, right? It doesn't come without a host of problems and limitations for Black women and feminists that are doing this work. But, it definitely has furthered and really kind of expanded this work in a way that everybody can reach and touch it and have access to it as they desire. I think just thinking about who's doing this well, I often kind of think about this uh, in a couple of categories. I look at it from academic, non-academic. And so when I think about academic work in this space, I usually relate back to people who have been doing this stuff for a long time. So for me, I think about Dr. Tracy Cottom, who was on my dissertation committee initially as a former faculty member at BCU, and is continuing to really grow in this space. And I think about people like Dr. Brittany Cooper with Crunk Feminist Collective, who's Professor Crunk now, really kind of engaging in the space. I think about people like Feminista Jones. And then for the like academic space, I look at like some of the collaborative work that's happening through Black Feminist Collective, through Black Feminist Futures, where a lot of people are engaging in I would say a little bit more of the academic social justice type work. But I also firmly believe that there are people out there that are doing this work that may not name it Black feminism, but it still is operating in a very Black feminist way. And so there are a couple people in a group that I really like enjoy following. I follow Lene Vanee, who is a very popular kind of I would say has a political critique, has a little bit of a popular culture critique, but is doing it from a very Black woman centric way. And I think that in itself puts it squarely within the space of Black feminism. I would also say Tabitha Brown, lifestyle influencer who has really, for one, we've seen the work is during the pandemic kind of be life-changing for her and for, I would say, for a lot of us, where she's engaging in these kind of topics that are around self-empowerment, self-identification, talking about the things that are most often politicized in Black women, which is around Black hair and Black hair care, talking about things around health, healthy eating, healthy living, and just really bringing kind of true like love and life in terms of like the work that she's doing. And I think from an identification representation space, that too is really the work of Black feminism, whether it's named that or not. And then my last one would be Therapy for Black Girls. They are doing some really amazing work where it's academic from a therapy perspective, but it's not being labeled as Black feminism. And I see this work as really important where, Black women are just dealing with so much oppression and marginalization. And it serves to destigmatize the mental health access, right? And so this this platform really kind of provides, I would say, a place for restoration and a place for resources. And so I think when it is dealing with Black like women and kind of mental health is truly, again, I would say right in the kind of crux of Black feminism as a way to further kind of help with representation, to resist marginalization, and to kind of deal with these systematic oppressions that Black women are addressing.
No, yeah, I love that, Dr. Johnson. And I love how you bring up, the distinction between like, academic and versus non-academic, because there's so many like Black feminists like who are doing work of Black feminists, not necessarily naming their work. That another person who comes to mind, they're on TikTok and Instagram is Itzamatsu Gwendolyn. But they're a writer, community health worker, and thinker in praxis. And I really admire their commitment to, public education. They do all of their work for free. And they'll post their readings and essays on Substack, but they'll also make short fun videos on TikTok and Instagram, but just really inviting, like the public alongside their journey as a budding revolutionary. So yeah, I just really love digital space and being able, you can see anybody doing this type of work, which is really great. So how would you say that your work around Black feminist blog spaces has created a pathway for you in academia?
Well, yeah, I think I started looking at this stuff and doing this work probably in 2015, right in the midst of my PhD work, and as a result of the work with like early feminist blogs that were also included in my dissertation, like Punk Feminist Collective, the Feminist Wire, and For Harriet, I was able to develop classes around this work. So Black Feminism and the Internet, Amaya, which you took. And I, ultimately have become a GTA and an adjunct and ultimately a full-time faculty member. So, I think just kind of leveraging this space, this work, understanding kind of where Black women were operating in this digital context. Black feminist blogs have not only served to provide voice for those that are doing the digital labor, but they've also opened the door for me to have voice as well. And so, I feel very I would say I owe a lot to the work that's taken place online because, it's the work that I've continued to explore and examine and research on. So, all credit to those that were doing this digital labor way before, I ever even thought about or had a notion about it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you started focusing on Black feminist blog spaces, but in your dissertation you talk about how you think blogs are dead now. Um, so and you also talk about how you see like the actual true work of liberatory theory being taken place on social media. So can you give some examples of Black feminists you see doing this actual work on social media now?
Yeah, so I would say, Amaya, that's funny that you bring up my dissertation on that. I would say perhaps at that time, my portrayal of the death of the blog was a bit unfair. Um, but blogs still exist and I still use them and access them. However, kind of based on the way in which society is operating today, meaning kind of we are all functioning in or are like the function of being able to get information immediately within a moment's notice. Blogs don't operate in the same way. Social media today is providing the avenue for people to be able to disseminate information quickly and to the masses, whereas blogs many times require that people know who you are and that you're writing out there. People like what you're writing and they access it, that people are willing to take the time to dig into your work, right? And so the but that doesn't mean that they don't still serve a purpose. I would say that people that are doing it well, kind of you asked like who's doing it well. I said I would make it kind of a global statement. The people that are doing it well are the people that leverage social media and blogs together, meaning that they promote their extensive content using social media. For example, if you use like an Instagram link to a full blog and so forth, right? So those are the people that are kind of leveraging multiple tools as a way to help people to dig into more extensive content. And what you'll get is you'll get some takers. Some people will be like, oh yeah, let me read this blog. I'll click on it. Some people might not, but they would get the highlights and they could keep on moving. So perhaps blogs are not quite dead, but the way in which we get this information is in need of like a bit of a makeover is kind of how I see it.
No, yeah, that's interesting. And you also talk about, like kind of the pros and cons or of navigating social media and like platform affordances. So I feel like all of that's interesting when thinking about, how we're disseminating information and getting it out there in our capacity to do so. So how do you see kind of the intersections between Black feminism and digital humanities adding to, this budding field of digital sociology?
Yeah. So I think, when I think of this space, I kind of rather than like one field pouring into the other or vice versa, I like to think about all these fields in tandem, kind of intersectionally, where Black feminism leaves off, digital humanities takes the baton, and the same goes for digital sociology. So each of these fields serve to provide room for Black feminism, for Black feminist voice, and each addresses your intersectional identities, each addresses and pushes against systemic racism, each serves to critique the oppressions that exist in the digital spaces, especially with looking at both platforms and AI, right? So, and all of the fields really allow us to have space for digitizing the Black experience, to have space to really kind of place Black oral histories into digital places and ways to center our experiences. So I don't necessarily think of like one, because while digital sociology is a budding growing field, it has its place in the world, right? And so I think that they all are really kind of, there's synergies that are coming, and the synergy exists around kind of that digital connection, right? They are all kind of working in that same space, in that same field, and so they're all kind of informing each other. I think this is an area where there will be, if not now, a lot of crossover, right? Because you'll have people working in these spaces from different fields and different capacities. And I think I like that about it, right? It's very flexible. It's very open. The newness around this kind of topic, as well as the evolution of like this digital space, allows for that really malleable state where we can all kind of cross functionally, right? It's truly interdisciplinary, right? That's kind of how I see it. And so I think that I think all these fields just really serve to answer the questions related to Black feminism, Black feminist thought, Black cyberfeminism. They work hand in hand for me.
No, yeah, I love that. Especially because like as I mentioned earlier, like in undergrad, I double majored in gender sexuality and sociology. So kind of my first introduction to digital spaces, feminism and digital spaces, was in Dr. Frankie's digital feminism course, which I took in spring of 2021. And then you offered your Black feminism in the internet course that upcoming fall. So I obviously like jumped to, take the opportunity. But I love like, just interdisciplinary studies. And I feel like those two courses are really kind of pivotal in my academic journey and just, finding my kind of niche in what I wanted to study. And, really sparked my interest just in examining racism and sexism in digital spaces. And then also just considering, social media's liberatory potential. So I know we kind of spoke earlier about how you're teaching, this course again this upcoming fall, but now it's going to be titled Digital Black Feminism. So I've been wondering, like, since teaching the course, how have you like evolved it and reworked it over the years?
I love that. So yes, I retitled the course. I kind of thought about like, and Amaya, I'm sure you can attest to kind of all the things I was bringing in a lot of media in the class. The class had a lot of different kind of ways of addressing like Black feminism and the internet, Black feminism and the internet, kind of like really bringing a lot of popular culture. I thought a lot about kind of what I wanted the objectives and outcomes to be for the course. And I really wanted people to have a real kind of deep understanding of Black feminism, of course. So definitely there's always going to be theory, right? Top of the line, right? But then I wanted people to really kind of dig into how are we leveraging the digital spaces, how, and what are the consequences that stem from that. So I decided to retitle the course to better align with the complexities of Black feminist engagement online, as well as like where I see the field heading. And so with that, because there's just so much great theory that's going on in this space, there are a lot of great writers, there's a lot of awesome material out there. But I also wanted to create a bit of an immersive experience for students. So this next semester, they're going to get the opportunity to engage heavily, or as I say, be really kind of immersed in producing their own online content, their own digital labor as a semester long project. And because I leverage so much of this kind of popular culture in my courses, I'm always kind of updating and evolving the work. It's important for me to keep things fresh and really relevant. And so I'm always kind of thinking about things that I want to bring in that will have really kind of awesome emphasis. So I try to like, I would say kind of till the grass a little bit of every semester, kind of really dig in on the courses and kind of flip them over a little bit and really bring in other things, because again, there's so much out going on. I like for the students to feel fully engaged and to be very present in the work, but to also know, that these are things that are happening around them that are relevant to them. And so, I'll be this summer kind of really thinking about what's happened kind of as I, build out my syllabus, think about kind of where I'll pull in more references to what's going on in society as well. So I'm looking forward to it. I think this class has a lot of potential to do a little bit more than Black feminism and the internet around kind of the theoretical framework, as well as kind of all of the great resources that I'm going to pull in.
No, yeah, that sounds really exciting. And just like the whole like digital labor project as well. And I feel like using digital like tools and technologies, I just feel like it's a really powerful way to get people to understand, the relevance of, doing Black feminism or whatever types of work, just because it's so relevant to our lives as probably digital natives or people that are always, on our phones. Is there anything that you can share with us, about like your future areas of research or anything we should be looking out for as, the digital is always changing?
Oh my goodness, it's changing like every day. But I would say, for the last few years, I think I probably prioritized teaching. And now I'm kind of really moving in a direction that is centering both my research along with my teaching. And so I'm wrapping up a book proposal that is focusing on Black digital feminism and AI. And this work will allow me to really leverage my knowledge in Black feminism, but also will engage my dissertation work around platform affordances. That's, while that work was kind of really new to me in terms of my dissertation, it's also a place where I want to continue to dig in. And with kind of this like growing space of AI and kind of the implications, the good and the bad with it, I think this is definitely a place where, I will be able to kind of really share some voice and really do some amazing research in this area. I'm also working on a couple of articles, one that's centered in Black digital feminism and the revolutionary social justice work that's taking place online. And the other is on the pedagogy of teaching popular culture topics, specifically Beyonce. And so I'm also writing a couple of opinion pieces. I just wrote one this week about Cowboy Carter. So maybe I'm doing a little bit of my pseudo blogging that I thought was dead as well. But yeah, I'm really kind of digging into these spaces and really want to think about pedagogy and kind of the work that I'm doing from a pedagogical standpoint. Lastly, I think this is less about kind of where you can look for me, but more kind of like something I need to do, which is around kind of building my own social media presence, right? It's kind of like doing walk the walk, right? I'm talking about all this stuff, but I really kind of need to dig in on my own presence. So I'm spending time really doing that and devoting time to that, doing that, putting out a lot of my voice out there, really kind of putting out some of the work that I'm doing. I guess I'm kind of looking to be my own kind of case study for this to see how it goes. So while the students next semester will also be immersed in their own digital work, I'll also be doing the same thing. So I kind of see that as a side-by-side walk with them.
Oh no, that sounds great. I love that. Or we'll be looking for you on the socials, so you'll have to put them in the chat so everybody
Okay,
can follow you.
I will do that.
Well, those were all the questions I had for you, Dr. Johnson. Thank you. Kaylin, I don't know if you want to jump in for our Q&A portion. If anybody has any questions that they want to put in the chat, we can start
And
that.
also use the Q&A feature at the bottom as well. I'll go ahead and start the questions while we wait for more questions. So one of the questions is, woo, Amaya, and that's from Abigail. And then the next question is for you, Dr. Johnson. How did it, I'm assuming they're talking about Black feminism, inspire your classes you teach, like Beyonce, race, fame, and the internet?
Yeah, I think that Black feminism, especially for the Beyonce class, because I teach it through a Black feminist lens. So it's taught with kind of, as you think about like Beyonce, we ask the question day one, like, is Beyonce a Black feminist, right? And that's kind of I would say the guiding question throughout the semester, but it is centered in various topics like I talk about like Beyonce capitalism. I talk about iconography. I talk about let's see, Black queer politics. I talk about a lot of different categories that are right around Black feminism. So the class is taught in that way. So we get Beyonce as the central figure, character, beautiful Black person that we have as the central of the course, but we also get Black feminism. And I made a decision to do that because I think it enriches the topic. I think that it allows us to see both Beyonce the icon and Beyonce the marginalized, and often we forget that for people that are famous and rich and wealthy and all these things, we forget that Beyonce's body is politicized in the same way that my body would be politicized in that same way, right? As a Black woman, the layers around that. So I felt it was important for us to kind of really bring that context to popular culture.
Thank you. And the next question is, what policies / regulations do you believe to be the most sustainable / effective in combating racist, sexist algorithms?
So I will say that I am a bit of I struggle with policy that is related to kind of online spaces. And I say that because I don't, one, yes, there are Black women and Black feminists are definitely are experience misogynoir in digital spaces, right? So that's, but I think it's important that when we get in digital spaces, if we start to kind of really layer on kind of the politics around that, then we're still going to continue to be marginalized because our voice is going to be further, I would say, squashed. And so I get nervous when there's policy about how do we regulate this stuff, right? How do we regulate what's happening online? Because I think ultimately we'll be the people that are impacted. And so because why do Black women do Black feminist work online? Well, because traditional media didn't provide a place for that work to be done. And so there was this promise of kind of freedom online. That's why people went online. It's not a controlled space. It's a space where you can go and supposedly have voice. So I think these limitations and these policies are I get a little nerve-wracked about it. I would say though, I mean, I think they're needed, but I'm nervous because I think that it's like a broad swoop across like all kinds of speech and thought. And we have to be really careful about that, just kind of thinking about from a freedom of speech perspective. And I think ultimately that would impact us. So I'm not saying let's go without any kind of regulation at all, but I think we have to be real. It's a very slippery slope when we start to regulate the internet and the ways in which people engage and the responses about that. And so I don't necessarily know if there's a great answer to that. I know that I bristled when, with the recent kind of things around like limiting TikTok, around like limiting some of the social media platforms and stuff. And so, but that's because I know that it's a space where so much great work is being done. And if we start to kind of really regulate that in any space, I think we're going to have the dangers of like truly kind of disempowering and removing voice.
All right. And the next question, I'm going to save one question as the very last question, but this question kind of goes into what you were just talking about with TikTok. Can you speak to how the upcoming TikTok ban will impact people of color content creators?
Yeah, I'm glad that question got asked because I think that is like a major place of concern and should be a place of concern for all of us. I actually wrote an opinion piece on that probably a couple weeks ago on how by banning TikTok, that's ultimately killing Black voices and Black women's voices. And especially where there are so many people that are creating content that's making money, it's their like full-time job, it's how they support their families, it's how they're actually living. And so I see the desire to ban TikTok as kind of this I would say governmental support of capitalism, basically because the goal of it is to ban TikTok, but then to have an American company consume it. And the two kind of companies that were listed, or people companies, was Walmart and Bill Gates. So again, it's an attempt to really probably, I would say, disenfranchise people that are making money online, but also to really just kind of further kind of fatten the pockets of those people that are already the rich and wealthy in the US.
All right. So this next question is, are there particular Black feminist media texts and other mediums like TV, film, or radio that come to mind for you as being formative in shaping your pedagogy and research? I love to hear how folks interested in digital studies relate to other media and generally hear people's nostalgic or influential fave media.
Yeah. I think text-wise, from a Black feminist perspective, I'm always kind of in the space of Patricia Hill Collins as the person who kind of really shaped my knowledge around Black feminist thought as a whole. I think from a digital Black feminist space, I've been following the work of Catherine Knight Steele for a really long time. From her initial kind of dissertation to her recent book, Digital Black Feminism. And so just kind of those two works have been really kind of, I would say, a bit canonical in terms of how I have embraced them to do my own work. Let's see, from a other media, I think, yeah, text wise, other media that's doing Black feminism well, I think that would be just some of the people that I've mentioned. The initial early blogs that you leveraged for my dissertation, they were the blogs that actually shaped kind of the way that I viewed and saw Black feminism taking place. Crunk feminism, which had its own kind of place in the world, the Feminist Wire, as well as For Harriet, they all had very different kinds of platforms, the way that they demonstrated their Black feminist lens. But I learned so much from those places and the people that actually, kind of led those blogs, and have had, like, so Dr. Tamara Lomax was actually a mentor for me, which she's the person who started the Feminist Wire. And so I've had the ability to work with people who are doing this amazing work from the early on, and have really shaped the world of Black feminism and the digital space.
All right, and we have one more question.
Okay.
And because we are all wondering, what is
Uh-oh.
your favorite track on Cowboy Carter?
Uh-oh. So, you know, okay, well, I would say, first of all, like from an academic standpoint, I kind of analyzed American Requiem and Amen together as the two pieces that buttress the album as a whole, as kind of the American Requiem represented the kind of so requiem means like a mass for the dead, or music for the dead. And so that basically, that song represented kind of the loss of American ideals, where Amen was more of a tribute to enslaved Black persons, to those that have lost their lives to police violence, as well as kind of maybe a hope for the future. It is absolutely genius, those two together. But in the middle of all of that, I think probably, I don't know, I really love Bodyguard. I think it's amazing. And I think just having kind of talked with my students about this week, I would say Yaya is also pretty awesome. But I love the album. I played it probably now, I would say I'm on like time number 6. So it's really, really good. And I have really high kind of view of it. I think that Beyonce did an amazing job at just being able to, I kind of call her a bit of a shape shifting, kind of genre fluid artist that just did some really cool work that like allowed her to just really kind of dip her toes into country music, but do all the other awesome things that she does. And so it's just a fabulous album. I really do find it great.
And we actually do have another question.
Okay.
Building off that, how are you planning on possibly incorporating Cowboy Carter into the Beyonce Race Fame internet class along with Lemonade and Renaissance?
I already do that. So we talk about Lemonade. We've already talked about Lemonade. We've always already talked about Renaissance, and we talked about Cowboy Carter this week. So we definitely incorporate those into the class. It's just really important. So now we're just waiting on Act 3. And yeah, I guess the question is, what will that be?
Awesome. So those are all of our questions. So thank you all so much for your question and answers. I have some closing statements that I would like to say before you all hop off. On behalf of the Digital Sociology Lab, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to Dr. Johnson for her valuable insights and time spent engaging with us. Additionally, a special thank you to Amaya for moderating today's discussion, posing thought-provoking questions that deepened our understanding of Black cyberfeminism through Dr. Johnson's research. All that being said, thank you to everyone here for attending and taking the time out of your day to engage with us. The Digital Sociology Lab appreciates all of your support, and we hope to see you again at any of our other future events. Lastly, I would like to remind you that the VCU Sociology Master's Program accepts applicants until June 1st. Head over to the department's website to learn how you can get a master's in sociology, including a concentration in digital sociology. And I can say as a PhD student, I took digital sociology and digital research methods with Dr. Gina, and it was amazing. So thank you again for your engagement today, and we hope you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amaya.